The Treasury Select Committee is typically one of the quietest and most procedural settings in Westminster. Its purpose is straightforward: to scrutinise economic decisions, review major fiscal statements and hold the Chancellor directly accountable for policy choices that affect the entire country. However, during the most recent session, what is normally a calm and technical environment became unusually heated when Chancellor Rachel Reeves and Conservative MP Dame Harriett Baldwin clashed directly over the government's tax and growth strategy. Their exchange quickly drew public attention, not because of dramatic language, but because it revealed the growing tensions surrounding the government's economic approach, particularly after two of the largest tax-raising budgets in modern UK history. The exchange began with Baldwin posing a direct question about the Chancellor's growth strategy. She reminded Reeves that Labour had pledged no tax rises beyond the manifesto and had insisted growth, not taxation, would drive revenue. Yet since the election, Baldwin noted, Reeves has delivered two budgets containing some of the largest tax increases in UK history, while the OBR has judged that none of the latest measures boost growth overall. She finalised by asking Reeves to spell out her actual growth plan and to confirm whether she still chairs the government's Growth Mission Board.
Now, Chancellor, in the run-up to the general election, you said that you had no plans for tax rises beyond what was in your manifesto, and that you would focus on growth, and that growth was really the way in which you were going to get more tax revenues coming in. You've now put together two of the biggest tax-raising budgets in UK history. And the Office for Budget Responsibility has told us that there's not a single measure overall that has a positive growth impact. They think, in fact, that tax hikes are harming growth. So can you tell us what your growth plan is? It's not one of the priorities of this budget. Are you still chairing the Growth Mission Board?
Reeves responded by returning immediately to a theme that has become central to the government's fiscal messaging: the legacy of the previous administration. She argued that since coming into office, Labour had discovered new information about the public finances, including what she described as a £22 billion black hole left by the former Conservative government. She also cited a £16 billion downgrade to productivity forecasts, explained that the OBR has reflected weak economic performance over the previous Parliament. Reeves emphasised that these factors, combined with the government's inherent fiscal position, created conditions that require additional tax measures beyond those set out in the manifesto.
There was new information after the general election. First of all, the £22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the previous government.
Which has been discredited by the Office for Budget Responsibility.
Not at all. The £22 billion black hole left by the previous government, which was set out to me by Treasury officials the weekend that I became Chancellor of the Exchequer, which we had to fill. And then the £16 billion downgrade to productivity, the impact that had on fiscal revenues, and as the Office of Budget Responsibility were very clear, that reflects the weak productivity in the previous Parliament. The OBR made the decision to do that revision this summer, but they were very clear it doesn't reflect any policies of this government. But you've also asked about growth. Well, shall I finish answering your question, Dame Harriett? You've asked about economic growth. You will know that in the spring the OBR upgraded their growth forecasts. It was the biggest upgrade to growth from a non-fiscal measure that the OBR in their 15-year history now has ever made, and that reflected the changes that we made to planning. And they also upgraded the growth forecast because of the capital investment that this government is prioritising. Of course, under the previous government's plans, capital investment was due to fall in this Parliament. I protected capital investment and have continued to do so, even in this challenging budget with the productivity downgrade. So the OBR have been very clear that both the planning reforms, voted against, I believe, by the Conservative Party, and also the the capital expenditure, which the Conservatives were going to cut, has resulted in an upgrade of productivity.
The exchange stayed measured though. Baldwin pushed back, arguing the OBR had discredited the £22 billion black hole claim. Reeves rejected that, saying that the figure came from the Treasury and that the productivity downgrade reflected pre-Labour decisions. From here, the discussion shifted into open disagreement over interpretation. Reeves then outlined what she called pro-growth policies, noting the OBR's upgraded forecasts tied to planning reforms and protective investment. It was at this point that Baldwin pressed more forcefully, saying, "You chose not to put any new growth measures in this budget." Reeves immediately contested this, stating that Baldwin was misrepresenting her answer. The two briefly spoke over each other, prompting the chair, Dame Meg Hillier, to intervene and ask that the questions and answers proceed in sequence. The exchange had noticeably shifted from technical scrutiny to a more adversary tone.
So you chose not to put any new growth measures in this budget.
Well, that's exactly. No, that's not what I said. Dame Harriett. Sorry, Dame Harriett.
Perhaps, Dame Harriett, if you ask a question, then the Chancellor can.
Yes, but don't contradict what I just said. Yes, we have regular meetings of the Growth Mission Board, but I did not say in the answer to my question, as you suggested, that there were no growth measures in this budget. Far from it. In the week of the budget, we made further progress on the runway at Heathrow. We signed off the film studio in Marlow. Jamie Dimon, the chief executive of JP Morgan, who could invest in any country in the world, chose the day after the budget, referencing the actions that I had taken in the budget, that as a result of that, he would be making the investment in Canary Wharf.
Much of the tension in this exchange stemmed from political promises made long before the committee hearing. In the run-up to the 2024 election, both Rachel Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer repeatedly assured voters that economic growth would be Labour's number one priority, the foundation that would allow the party to avoid raising taxes. Growth, they insisted, would power the country forward and generate the revenue needed to fund public services.
What I will say is that growth is the number one priority of this government. Economic growth, wealth creation, making sure that people are better off.
But it's because we are ambitious of Britain that we have to be bold. Our mission is to secure the highest sustained growth in the G7, with good jobs and productivity in all parts of the country.
Well, the number one priority of this Labour government is growth, 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 growth. And by that I mean wealth creation. And that's why what you've seen in recent days is a number of announcements about how we're going to strip away regulation. And that's what our growth mission is about. The British people are falling behind whilst our European neighbours get richer, in the East as well as in countries like France and Germany.
Yet, 2 budgets later, the picture has changed dramatically. Since the 2024 election, the UK has seen a combination of £66 billion in tax-raising measures, a £40 billion tax-raising package, the largest tax increase since 1993, followed just last month by a further £26 billion in additional rises. Compounding the pressure, the growth that the Labour Party promised has not yet materialised. The most recent GDP data shows only marginal movement, plus 0.1% in Q3 of 2025 and plus 0.3% in Q2 of 2025. Technically positive, but nowhere near the level of growth required to underpin the government's fiscal strategy or to fulfil its central campaign message that growth would do the heavy lifting. This context explains why the committee clash became so heated. When Baldwin challenged the Chancellor by saying her budget contained no new growth measures, she was not simply disputing a technical point, she was striking at the core of Labour's economic promise. An economic promise that helped Labour to win a landslide election victory in 2024. Reeves, aware of the political stakes, had little choice but to defend her claim that the budget did include pro-growth policies, even if the OBR's assessment appeared to cut in opposite direction. And this wider frustration with Labour's economic direction is not limited to the committee room. Across the country, analysts, newspapers and economists have been questioning whether the government has quietly stepped away from the growth-first agenda it once championed and moved to a higher tax agenda. After delivering their second budget since taking power in 2024, Labour has been accused by critics of abandoning the growth-focused agenda they originally promised would take their top priority. Take, for instance, this article from The Telegraph. Sir Keir Starmer's flagship pledge to grow the economy and raise living standards is in tatters. The Prime Minister's #1 pledge after stepping foot into Downing Street was to deliver a more prosperous economy. People were meant to feel richer, with living standards rising at world-beating rates. Instead, the government's own tax and spending watchdog has delivered a damning verdict that means most Britons will be barely better off by the next election. The outlook for living standards has worsened, with growth in real disposable incomes over this Parliament now expected to be second worst since records began in the 1950s. If growth is still Labour's #1 priority, this government has a funny way of showing it. The Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, downgraded its growth forecast for real household disposable income, RHDI, per person over the next 5 years. Growth is now projected to ease from 3% in 2024 to 2025 to an average of 0.25% a year over the forecast. The OBR noted this was well below the last decade's average growth of 1% a year, at the tail end of austerity. The long squeeze on pay also shows no signs of abating. By the end of this decade, workers' real terms hourly pay, adjusted for inflation, will still be 0.5% below its 2009 to 2010 level. As recently as the Sunday after the November 26 budget, Rachel Reeves was challenged by Trevor Phillips over the government's lack of a clear growth strategy.
I chair a medium-sized business myself. We've done pretty well. We want to expand. I know what's going to happen this week. Chief Financial Officer is going to say, rise in national insurance, massive hike in business rates. They've already added tens of thousands to our overheads. The CHRO is going to warn that the stealth taxes, the freezing of the thresholds, have just pushed up the cost of hiring because candidates know that they're going to get less out of their pay packets because more is going to HMRC. Your big priority is supposed to be growth. You're actually killing growth.
The freezing the thresholds that I announced come in 2028, so there would be no change before that point. Of course, the previous government froze thresholds for 7 years.
We didn't know that you were going to extend them for another 3 years.
Well, I did say in that speech at the beginning of November that we would have to ask people to contribute more.
Critics argue that Labour has not only continued Britain's post-2008 stagnation, but has deepened it through policies that raise the cost of doing business. They point to higher taxes on employers, increased business rates, and new regulatory burdens that make it more expensive to hire, invest, and grow. As a result, unemployment has begun to rise, and businesses warn that confidence is weakening. Instead of delivering the growth-focused reset in 2024, opponents claim Labour's approach risks prolonging the same cycle of weak productivity, slow wage growth, and declining economic dynamism that has held Britain back since the financial crisis. The pressures on households, businesses, and public services are the result of long-running structural weaknesses that will take time, discipline, and clear direction to fix. But stagnation is not destiny. The UK still has world-class industries, a highly skilled workforce, and the capacity to grow stronger with the right choices. Whether Labour can deliver that shift remains to be seen. Another exchange that drew significant attention during the committee session came when Reeves was pressed about her decision to extend the freeze on income tax and national insurance thresholds. This part of the hearing was striking because it went beyond technical questions. It cut directly into a credibility issue that Labour has struggled to contain. When asked why she extended the threshold freeze for an additional 3 years, Reeves defended the decision forcefully. She argued that she had been very clear in her speech on 4th of November that everyone would have to make a contribution, and she insisted the budget on the 26th of November reflected that exact message. Reeves stressed that while the previous government had already frozen thresholds for 7 years, extending the freeze was not a breach of Labour's manifesto. Instead, she framed it as a difficult but transparent decision she had prepared the public for. She emphasised repeatedly that she stood by the speech that she made, and that the squeeze created by the freeze was unavoidable given the state of the public finances her government had inherited.
First of all, in the speech in the 4th of November, I was very clear that everyone would have to make a contribution. And you saw that in the budget on the 26th of November. We froze for an additional 3 years the tax thresholds, national insurance and income tax, that the previous government had frozen for 7 years. We extended that for a further 3 years. That's not a breach of the manifesto, but it is asking everybody to contribute more.
But this is why the criticism intensified and why the moment resonated far beyond Westminster. In her first budget speech after taking office, Reeves stated plainly that freezing income tax thresholds was a move that would hurt working people and would be, in her words, breach the manifesto. She had used this argument against the Conservatives repeatedly. Here is a clip from the budget in 2024 where she states this.
The previous government froze income tax and national insurance thresholds in 2021, and then they did so again after the mini-budget. Extending their threshold freeze for a further 2 years raises billions of pounds, money to deal with the black hole in our public finances and repair our public services. Having considered this issue closely, I have come to the conclusion that extending the threshold freeze would hurt working people. It would take more money out of their payslips. I'm keeping every single promise on tax that I made in our manifesto. So there will be no extension of the freeze in income tax and national insurance thresholds beyond the decisions by the previous government.
Now, less than a year later, she was defending the very measure she had described would hurt working people, that contradicted capturing on record became a focal point of the exchange. MPs noted it. Commentators noted it. This has led to headlines such as these by the New Statesman. Labour is now the least trusted party in Britain. Almost 2/3 of voters say that tax rises in the November budget were not justified. Labour is now the least trusted political party in Britain, according to new polling exclusive to the New Statesman. Of those polled, 38% said they distrusted the Labour Party a lot, while 11% said they distrusted a little, 49% of respondents in total. Some 34% said they trusted Labour either a lot or a little. That contradiction, captured on record, became a focal point of the exchange. MPs noted it, commentators noted it. This matters because both Labour budgets since the 2024 election have been met with overwhelmingly negative public reactions. The £40 billion tax rising package, the largest since 1993, followed by another £26 billion last month, has created a perception that Labour has quietly abandoned its pledge not to raise taxes on working families. Combined with stagnant growth figures and persistent cost of living pressures, these decisions have contributed to Labour's steep decline in polling. And critically, the voters drifting away from Labour are not returning to the Conservatives. The party absorbing the largest share of disillusioned 2024 Labour voters is the Green Party. Labour List recently reported more than 1 in 5 Labour members see the Green Party as the biggest electoral threat to Labour, according to exclusive polling for Labour List. The poll, conducted by Survation, revealed that 21% see Zach Palensky's party as the biggest threat to Labour at the ballot box, second only to Reform UK at 64%. Concern about the Green threat has risen since Palensky became leader, with only 3% of Labour members saying the Green Party were Labour's biggest electoral threat in August. And that shift is increasingly benefiting one party above all, the Greens. Under the leadership of Zach Palensky, the Green Party has moved from a peripheral force to a serious electoral threat, not to the Conservatives, but directly to Labour. Palensky has positioned the Greens as the authentic alternative for voters on the left. But Labour List's own polling shows that the threat is two-sided. While 21% of Labour members now see the Greens as Labour's biggest electoral danger, a striking 64% believe the greatest threat comes from Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Together, these parties are squeezing Labour from both ends of the political spectrum. Reform pulling disaffectioned working class voters to the right, and the Greens attracting progressive voters who feel Labour has drifted away from its values. This dual pressure underscores Labour's deepening vulnerability. The clash between Rachel Reeves and Dame Harriett Baldwin was more than a committee dispute. It exposed a deeper crisis in Labour's economic narrative. Two major tax-rising budgets, weak growth and mounting public distrust have left the government struggling to defend promises it made less than a year ago. And with Reform UK and the Greens both gaining momentum, Labour now faces electoral pressure from both sides. Whether the government can regain credibility will shape Britain's economy path in the years ahead. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more.